Hey, how's it going, guys? Yaniv here, and I wasn't expecting to make a video on this. I held off for a really long time, but obviously, things are evolving and I've been getting a lot of questions. So I want to set some things straight. I want to give you guys some tips and advice on this coronavirus situation, but I'm only going to be talking about particularly about Amazon FBA, not any personal things or not any advice that way. I'll leave some links down below if you guys want to check that out, but we're going to focus purely on Amazon FBA and what you should do with your business if you're just starting off, or if you currently have an Amazon business, what you should do to make sure that you are, set for this situation. So I do have some notes just to make sure that I say everything correctly and, I'm not spreading any misinformation or anything like that. So basically, obviously, I'm not a doctor, and this video is being filmed May 15th, 2020. So, things are going to evolve very quickly. As of right now, this is the relevant information that's going to help you out. If it's past this date, then take everything with a grain of salt, as things are changing very quickly. So let's just kind of get into some stuff, right? So I'm going to start off with some facts about the situation, and then we're going to move into some questions that people have been asking, lots of questions that I want to address, and then after that, we're going to go into some tips and stuff like that that I'm currently doing, and that will definitely help you out with your Amazon FBA businesses, to prepare with this whole situation. So some facts, right? Obviously, China and the world is a little bit shook right now about the situation. China, was hit the hardest as of right now. A lot of the factories closed down. This happened, in Chinese New Year. They also postponed, the Chinese New Year, so a lot of the factories were closed even longer than that to hold off this situation. So a lot of them have actually, closed. Some of them are starting to reopen now. So if you are, having difficulties reaching your supplier, or they're not answering, or you're going on Alibaba and people aren't answering, it's most likely because they're still closed. It really depends on the cities that are affected with this and where the manufacturers are. So that's just kind of the fact there, right? Some people are running out of stock. Some people can't get access to the manufacturers, and that's where we are right now. Another fact is that shipping has gotten a lot more expensive in recent time, and I'll break these down into two things. So there's air shipping and sea shipping. Air shipping has gotten drastically more expensive because a lot of the flights have been canceled, going from China for obvious reasons. So a lot of the times they would take the shipping boxes and they put them on passenger flights where the extra space was, to kind of lower the prices, but because there's less flights going on, it's costing a lot more for that. So a lot of people have looked to sea shipping, but obviously because there's a much higher demand for sea shipping now, the prices there have gone up as well, not as drastically as the air, but definitely be prepared to spend some more money on that. I know a lot of people have been being contacted by the manufacturers saying that they need more money for the shipping, and that's totally normal, obviously, to a certain extent, right? Like some people will, or some manufacturers will try to capitalize on the situation, but just be careful there. It's just basic supply and demand, right? When people are looking to ship all their products by sea, that price is going to go up as well, especially considering that the supply is less, since some shipping companies are taking more precautions, not working, people are getting sick. So that's kind of what the situation is. So those basically are the few facts that have happened right now. Manufacturers, some of them reopening, most of them, a lot of them are still closed. Shipping has gotten more expensive. People are going out of stock. Those are the facts, right? So let's go into some questions about the situation here. These are some questions that a lot of people have been asking me. I posted in our free Facebook group. If you guys don't know, we have one. I'll leave a link down below to join it there. A lot of people have been asking questions, and I made a post asking if people wanted to know more about some of the stuff that's happening right now and how to deal with it as an Amazon FBA seller. So here they are. All right, the first question here is it normal that suppliers are asking for double the price for products and then citing the coronavirus as the reason why? I would say that a slight increase would make sense. But obviously use your gut judgment on this. If it doesn't seem right, or if it doesn't seem like that makes sense, then you should be careful. Also, I would say contact multiple manufacturers if you can and see what they're citing to make sure that you're kind of understanding where the baseline is for the prices right now for your particular products. Again, it also depends on where your manufacturers are. And make sure to ask them for their price after this whole thing blows over. Because if you're just starting off, you don't want to go to a manufacturer, get a quote, and they tell you, higher quote because of the coronavirus, and then after this, kind of blows over and is dealt with, you're stuck paying those prices. So make sure that you get a quote, for right now, and then a quote for after this is done, so that you can switch to that price when everything normalizes again. So that's a great tip. I think for a lot of you guys will help you out. Another question that I've gotten many times is it a good idea to start Amazon FBA in the midst of this virus? If you're in the product research phase and it's done, do you execute or wait? And in a quick sentence there, I think that you should definitely start no matter what. If the numbers still make sense and if you have the means to do it, I think you need to do this. Don't wait. There's always going to be reasons why not to do something. There's always going to be reasons to postpone things. But I would say if you have the means and you're prepared, then definitely go ahead and do that. I think it's going to be a good opportunity. When people are afraid, there's always good opportunity, right? So another question I had was, do the products need to be disinfected before leaving China? So no, they don't need to be disinfected. I believe that as far as we know right now, the longest the virus can last on objects is 3 days. So obviously shipping is going to take a lot more than that. So there should not be any issues with that. And this is as far as we know on March 15, 2020. So no, you don't need to disinfect them before leaving China. All right. Will this impact sales is another question. Definitely, I think this is hard to predict because depending on two different things, right? If you're selling essential products, then probably you're going to have an increase in sales. If you're not selling non-essential products, you could have an increase or you could have a decrease, because as the fear sets in, people are obviously staying home more often. And if this goes to the way it is in Italy or in China, this self-quarantining and stuff like that, people are going to be at home more. So it could lead to people buying more products, or it could lead to people trying to save money so that they can provide the necessities for their families and stuff like that. Now, again, these is touchy subjects, but I'm just trying to give you guys the view on it, right? So it's hard to predict. It could increase sales, it could decrease sales, it could stay the same. This is just it's very hard to predict this, and we're just gonna have to see where this whole thing goes, right? Lastly, one very common question is, should I source from other countries? And this one right here, I'm going to go into more detail in a little bit in my tips. But so I'll cover that in just a second. So let's go into some obvious tips. I think a lot of these will be fairly obvious for you guys, but I know that some of them are going to be very, very useful. So obviously the first one, just delay travel to China. Do not travel. I mean, probably do not travel internationally in general. I think that would be the best tip for you. Even if your manufacturers aren't in China, just don't. I'd say continue business as usual, right? If you're doing product research, keep doing product research. Just know this, right? That some of the data that you're going to start seeing is going to be a little bit not accurate, not because of the tools that you're using, but because a lot of people are going out of stock and aren't able to restock. And so some of the markets may look better than they actually are because some of the main competitors are out of stock. So remember that, keep that in the back of your head when you're doing product research, and just be careful of that, because you don't want to go into into a market where some people are out of stock, and in a couple weeks or months they come back in stock and the market becomes a lot more competitive. All right, so be careful with that. Now, my other advice goes back to, should you source from other countries? I would say no. I'd say continue to source in China, and there's actually a few reasons for this, right? Because if you're looking at Italy and places like that, the actual virus, as far as we know, is spreading outside of China faster than it is spreading inside of China. And so who knows, if you go and look into a different manufacturing place, who knows what's going to happen in the coming weeks or months. They could go into quarantine as well. As far as we know now in China, it's getting better. They're getting it under control, and now the factories are reopening. People are going back to work. So I would say remain sourcing from China if your product can be sourced from there. So that's one thing. Also think about long-term wise, right? If you're building a business for the future, do you want to go source in like other places if they're going to be more expensive after this whole thing is dealt with, right? Because it's hard to change your supply chain after after you've already started a business. So I would say keep sourcing in China if you can, do that. I don't think you need to look for other places right now. I think China is probably still the best option for a lot of people. Another one is get an inspection. This is something you want to do for sure. In general, after the Chinese New Year, a lot of the companies are really back ordered because they leave for vacation, and this one has been even postponed longer. And then after with the virus and all that kind of stuff, they're crazy back ordered in China. So they bring in a lot of temporary workers, a lot of people like that after the New Year's to actually fulfill the orders. So a lot of these people, a lot of people who were maybe working there who are sick aren't coming to work, so they have to replace replace them, and so the quality is probably going to be, you know, lowered. So make sure to get an inspection done. Make sure that the quality of the products are actually, you know, good. That's you know, I think a good tip for everyone. Do not skip inspections, especially now going forward for a little while until things normalize. For those of you who are just starting off, right, you know, it kind of sucks. It's hard in a situation like this, but remember this, right? Remember that when people are, you know, like looking for reasons not to do something, or are afraid of doing things, that's when the greatest opportunity happens. So again, like I said before, if you have the means and if you're able to do this, then I would say don't postpone it. Go out there and make it happen. All right. So if you're currently selling, you know, a proven product, obviously, you know, get as much stock as you can if you can order it. If not, then make sure to raise your prices slightly, because a lot of the people in the market will be selling and will probably go out of stock. And if you you know, sell a little bit less, you will be in stock when people go out of stock, and you'll be one of the only options to remain there. That's what I've done with my products. So just, you know, raise it slightly. Don't go like $10 higher. Don't go, you know, just a couple dollars, and just, you know, sell a little bit less, but let it sell through, right? Stay in stock, especially if you don't know if you can get restocked. You want to make sure that you're still in stock for as long as you can. And lastly, I think this is kind of like a really good thing for a lot of people that a lot of people overlook is if you are sourcing in China, if you do already have a manufacturer, or if you're reaching out to people on Alibaba and stuff like that, make sure to ask them how they are, you know, talk to them, build the relationships, make sure that you're not just there for business, because this is a huge issue in a lot of, you know, places around the world. Right now, as of March 15, it's not like super huge in, I'd say, North America and stuff like that, but there, you know, in China it was a really big thing, you know, a lot of places in Europe now it's a really big thing. So make sure that you're, you know, compassionate with people, and make sure that, you know, build those relationships, especially if you are building something long-term and you're not looking for a quick cash grab. It's important to build those relationships. So obviously, you know, things evolve super quickly. So as of right now, this is what we know. These are the tips that I can give you guys right now. Who knows what's going to happen going forward? I think these tips, though, will help you out, you know, I think until this whole thing is dealt with. Just keep moving forward. Remember, I'm going to leave you on a quote here that I think, you know, kind of will help you guys in this situation, right? And especially with starting an Amazon business, if you are looking to start one, right? So it's a Warren Buffett quote, and it says, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." And so I'll leave you guys on that. Take with that what you will, and I'll see you guys in the next video.